Look at the camera.
How's it going, everyone? My name is Will Witt with Prager University. Today we are joined by James O'Keefe from Project Veritas. James is on the front lines of exposing bias in the media all over with tech companies. He's doing amazing work. How are you doing today, James?
Hey, great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, of course. So we saw the video of you exposing Twitter, silencing conservative views. Could you explain to our audience what that's all about?
Well, we released 3 videos. The first showed Twitter engineer, a senior network security engineer, who said they're sharing Trump's private direct messages with the Department of Justice. And this guy, his name is Clay Haynes, he'd go on to say they have hundreds of engineers who look at pictures of your private parts. And it's amazing. He said there's hundreds of engineers at Twitter who log in and voyeuristically look at your private messages. The biggest video we released was about shadow banning, something that I think your audience would know about, but we never had any confirmation of. They talk about the algorithms that Twitter uses to go through your tweets. If you're tweeting about the American flag, about God, about the Christian cross, about these types of things, they consider you to be a Russian bot, and they mute you on your timeline so that people don't know that you're being seen. So all these engineers are talking about the targeting of conservatives on their platform, and Twitter has reacted. They said that they don't do this, even though all their engineers are on tape saying it. And this week, Twitter, their chief operations officer has resigned at Twitter.
I saw that. That whole story is insane that they actually do this. We actually, PragerU, our Twitter just got hacked by a Turkish cyber army group. We couldn't get our account back for 12 hours. And Twitter still hasn't talked to us about why that happened or why we lost our de-verified badge. You have any insight on that? Maybe why that happened?
I can tell you that the same thing has happened to Sarah Carter, and I also got a note from Sheriff Clark.
Yeah, they were targeting conservative pages. It seems like.
And you know, listen, it's very hard to shame people in Silicon Valley. It's like they're tapping themselves on the back. They're proud of what they've accomplished. It's truly incredible. These videos have became an internet phenomenon, and BuzzFeed and TechCrunch reached out to Twitter and got a statement, and they vehemently denied everything they're caught on tape saying and doing. So I'm not verified on Twitter. I have 400,000 followers, and I don't have a blue checkmark verification. So I think it's just we got to put pressure on them. We got to put pressure on the CEO. I think they are taking a branding hit, but the problem is, actually yesterday, Congressman Schiff and Dianne Feinstein of California put out a letter saying that all of the people who are tweeting hashtag release the memo, they're saying that they are Russian bots, which is of course preposterous.
Yeah.
But in the hidden camera tape, Pranay Singh, the engineer, quite literally says, who talks about the American flag and guns and God? Who taught you must be a Russian bot if you speak that way? So the people in Silicon Valley are living in such a bubble that they actually believe that the people who vote for Donald Trump are ergo Russian bots. It's extraordinary to watch.
That's insane. Conservatives are Russian bots now. That's what they're saying. How do you think that these big tech companies, you know, YouTube, Google, Facebook, Twitter, how do they get away with this? How do they get away with silencing conservative voices?
Well, it seems as though right now we're watching the cracks form in the dam, the dents in the fortress, because it seems like as the awareness is rising, and you see it online, if you utilize Twitter, you see the release the memo and all these, it's sort of crescendoing. But the problem is that a lot of these engineers are foreign-born workers. They're on H-1B visas. They don't believe in the same, I guess, fundamental values that the First Amendment, freedom of conscience, redress of grievances. They don't agree with the fundamental principles that we believe in. And they live in an echo chamber. They live in a groupthink. One engineer, Mo Narai, who's a Twitter engineer, he says that it's not so much a written policy at Twitter, it's an unwritten code. A groupthink is how he describes it. And that's how I've heard a lot of people describe this. They get away with it up until now. And this might be a turning point in the culture wars as we, the people, start to understand their algorithms and how they shadow ban users.
Yeah, well, you're doing great work. So what do you see next then for Project Veritas coming up in the future after this whole Twitter thing?
Well, I think we're going after people who buy ink by the barrel. We're going after the really important organizations, CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, Twitter, big tech companies. We're going after the sacred cows. We're going after the organizations that no one else has the willpower or the ability to do. We think the media is more powerful than all branches of government. I think that's become clear. I think CNN, I hate to admit it, but they still have a large degree of power in their ability to shame people, humiliate people, control the narrative about immigration. So it's important for us to investigate these companies directly. And they view me as a threat. They think that I'm a problem, but I'm just doing the things that they used to do. So Project Veritas is sort of a modern muckraking renaissance. This book, American Pravda, is all about what is required to do the work. I mean, we've been jailed. We've been detained at the border. We've had front page hit pieces at the New York Times going after our donors. They cannot abide us. They don't believe that we have a right to do what we do. We believe that we're doing the journalism itself, and they've become a system-supported propaganda function that needs to control the narrative. And a lot of it's economics, not just politics, but there's a need, there's a hunger for independent citizen journalism.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I actually have your book, American Pravda, right in front of me. I haven't read it yet, but I'm looking forward to. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, the book American Pravda is all about, George Orwell wrote in 1984, which is the year I was born. Orwell says that, the party, the system, the establishment, I guess you could call it the deep state these days, the media, they don't want you to trust the evidence of your eyes and ears. Project Veritas' whole vision is to empower a free people by giving them raw, unfiltered information. I mean, images have a power to transfix. Video has a power to change minds. And I think the Twitter investigation, I mean, it's an amazing thing to watch if you haven't seen these videos on Twitter. They're on tape talking about how they target people because they don't like them. And I think in society, right now, there's a fight. There's an existential fight about who and who is not a journalist. And a lot of these people, like the people at the Washington Post, they resent me, and they resent my team because they don't want other people out there fighting, exposing things. And American Pravda is about going undercover into the Hillary Clinton campaign, our stories being spiked by the mainstream media, being detained at the border. It's sort of an adventure story, a rollicking adventure story on one level, also a treatise on modern media, which I don't think that we live in a world where a lot of people don't want to hear the truth. But we cannot afford to live by lies, as Alexander Solzhenitsyn would say. So the book is really about modern mass media and how to circumvent the media, our synergies with the Trump administration, me meeting Donald Trump, and just about citizen journalism and the need to do this sort of muckraking.
Yeah, well, I'm sure all these big media companies don't like you very much. What would you say is the biggest problem facing America today?
Well, I would say it's fear. I would say that most Americans are afraid. They're deeply, deeply afraid of putting their reputations on the line. But in order for us to make progress, I think we, the people, the citizens of this country, have to establish new counterweights, because I don't think the legislative, executive, or judicial branch are going to solve our problems. We have to inform the people. Our government exists with the consent of the governed. That consent must be informed, not manufactured. So I think people need to go out on a limb and take risks and make sacrifices. And I see the fear manifest so much. People are unwilling to, they've got mortgages, they've got kids, they've got families, they've got futures, they want to go to law school. They will come after us if we expose them. They will. They've come after me. And one of my brave journalists, Allison Moss, she was in federal court yesterday with Bob Creamer from Democracy Partners, who's suing her because she exposed the fact that he was inciting violence at Trump rallies. So a necessary byproduct of success is to be targeted, is to be hated, is to be attacked. And I don't think we should view that as a bad thing. I think we need to get used to that. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I try to talk about in this book, American Pravda, is do we have the willpower? Do we have the convictions? Do we believe in our principles enough to actually stand and fight for them? I don't know if we do. I worry that we're becoming a nation of feckless cowards, and I think that everyone has a role to play. It doesn't mean you have to go undercover, but everyone has a role to play.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing what you guys are doing. How can people in our audience find out more about Project Veritas?
Well, I think buy the book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, American Pravda. Our website is Project Veritas, that's a Veritas. And buy the book, read the book, and put pressure on Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, as well. Tweet at him these videos.
Yeah, definitely. Well, James, I'd like to thank you for coming on and speaking with us. It's a great interview. I appreciate it and look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you so much.
This is Will Witt and James O'Keefe with PragerU. Thank you.
All right, guys. Thank you very